Welcome everyone for the video on the full moon of June 14th. It's a very special full moon. Why? Because we just enter during the last new moon into, astrologically, we would say the second half of the year. Now, this is not based on any calendar. It's just based on the type of astrological aspects that are occurring in the sky. It's not about, timing, solstice, or whatever that is like calendar based. It's really astrologically speaking. It's a different turn, a different twist to the year that is occurring since, right after the full moon of the Vesak, the celebration of Vesak on May 16th. Right after that, the transition started to happen. The Vesak was the peak of those energies that were including the conjunctions of Neptune, Jupiter, Venus, Mars as well, and all that work in Pisces that occurred. That is actually the main work of this year, 2022, but now it's following up with that energy peak that we went through on May 16th. So here is the chart for this full moon. So as you can see, the axis formed by Sun and Moon in opposition is forming two squares. So one from the Moon, one from the Sun, squares to Neptune in Pisces. So you see how different that is. We had conjunctions in Pisces and everything, very strong. Neptune was the focus point totally and was bringing in very high mystical energies, vibrations. I don't know how you lived this full moon of Vesak on May 16th, but that was quite amazing. It was a total lunar eclipse, by the way, but it was very mystical. Something, actually, at the moment I'm making that video, where I still feel it, like we're still into that. Even though if, time went by, but still. It's so strong, it's such a high vibrational peak of energy that it's still active. That being said, now with that full moon of June 14th, things definitely change. You see the both squares from Sun and Moon? It's obvious. It's obvious. Now the energy from Neptune in Pisces, how do we deal with it? We went really high, we touched really high mystical vibrations and all this. Some really big stuff was available for us. It doesn't mean, by the way, that everyone went and feel that. Everybody experimented it, but it was available, it was there. It was given, like blessings pouring on us. So it was there. Now the question is, how do we actually bring that back on our daily life? Practical side of that very mystical energy. How do we do that, actually? And as we dig in that topic, we'll have a look at Venus in Taurus during that full moon of June 14th. See Venus in conjunction with North Node and Uranus in Taurus. This is a big conjunction right there. And Venus is ruling the sign of Taurus. And as she enters the sign of Taurus, she gets into that conjunction with Uranus and the North Node. And that is actually not very comfortable, because Uranus is actually pushing a lot on Venus. So even if Venus is the queen there, Venus is ruling Taurus. So it's leading the whole show, let's say, in Taurus. But even if it's the queen, Uranus is still pushing on it so strong, asking different things. And Taurus is it's an earth sign, and it's a fixed earth sign. That means that it's very dense. It's, let's say, Venus in Taurus will mean, of course, love. Venus is love everywhere. In Taurus, it will go in a very concrete material aspect of love, including sensuality. So it's a very dense vibration of love. It's something very material. And in that very area, material area, it is asked during that full moon of June 14th to integrate what we received during those last 2 months when we had those conjunction with Neptune in Pisces. We had Jupiter mainly in conjunction there, along with Venus at some point. So Venus received some great gifts, but very mystical, very subtle, very, very high level energies. And now it's time to incorporate this in a very material life. And let's say a more daily life, a more usual life, way more material, way more concrete type of living. We were in a very high level of love. We could say just for the sake of really showing the difference, saying like divine love, let's say, really, really high vibration. Well, that was maybe the optimal experience we could get during those conjunction to Neptunes. Now that divine love, well, how does it fit in when we're now talking about sensuality, more daily love? Let's say you're in family, you're in a couple. You have either a husband or wife, or girlfriend or boyfriend, or you have a partner, a life partner. There's love there, but this love, there's different levels of that love. There's a very daily type of love, how you sleep, how you eat together, how you think, ponder on different topics and stuff. There's love involved there, but very material because it's daily things. So it's something that we go through every day. And the really high type of level, like divine love, that we received during those conjunctions to Neptune in Pisces, how do we bring it now? How do we make it work with the more daily life? This is the big question of Venus. And now if we don't do it, pressure will arise and it won't be very comfortable. And there are two main categories, let's say, of ways not to do it. That alchemy, let's say, bring that very high vibrational love to the more, let's say, usual, more daily love that we experiment, of course, in couple and with our life partners and so on, but also with friends and with people we see very often. There's love as well, not the same type of love, but there's still some expressions of love. I hope as much as possible. So everywhere in a more daily love, we have to bring that in reality. We have to use those gifts we received. It's our responsibility to bring it back in our daily life. And this is something not necessarily new, but we're not really used to think this way. We think, we are innocent, we're ignorant. We count on, let's say, the angels or guides or whoever to actually educate us on spirituality, how to, make our life better and all this. But this time, we've been through such high vibrational level of energy. We're there. We had the responsibility to go there, touch something, and get rich with it, and now bring it back in a more daily life and apply it somehow. Make some kind of alchemy to marry those two types of love together to create a new reality for our daily life. So we have this responsibility. And so now, the fact that we, let's say, spiritualize our daily life becomes our own responsibility, which we usually think, our guides have to do this for us. But we received so much that it became our own responsibility to do it. Think about it for a little while. This is kind of deep, that difference there. People will say, no, I know it's my own responsibility, but no. Think about it twice, go deep in, and you'll figure out that, yes, there's some kind of an instinct in a human being that tells us, our guides will do this for us. And if we listen to our guides, well, everything will go along and everything will be great. But this time it's different. Our guides helped us to go really high, touch some really subtle things, And now it is now our own responsibility to go and change our own cliches in our life. This is huge. So, 2 ways not to do it. 2, let's say, bad things could occur and actually disable us to do this work. So one thing, very basic, we didn't go get some really high vibrational stuff. We didn't go for a meditation on the full moon of Vesak, let's say. Of course, we don't have to do it, but the blessings were there. So if we do it, well, then we're enabled to do the work. If we don't do it, how can we be responsible, for everything else after? We cannot. So we cannot do that alchemy. So that's one way. And the other way is very simple. We go up there, and we love it so much, we don't really want to come back. So now we create a gap between that high, let's say, divine, in parentheses, divine love, and we create a gap between this and our reality, daily reality. And that gap that we create, because now our daily reality, we don't want it that much anymore. So we don't create that alchemy. Those loves don't marry together so much because we prefer that very divine love because we know that divine stuff is good. So we prefer to stay up there and we don't marry both realities together. So we don't do that work either. So 2 main ways not to do it. Okay. So now that we know about Venus, the work, this alchemy of love with Venus, Uranus, that is pushing Venus to do that alchemy, to marry those realities together. Thank you. Do follow me. So hope you do. If not, listen it again. It's worth it. It's really good. And okay, so we know about this work with Venus. We know that the opposition of Sun and Moon in square with Neptune is working in the same direction. Now that we see this, let's have a look to one more aspect. Mars. When we work with Venus, it's very often interesting to go have a look at what's happening with Mars. And Mars is in conjunction with Chiron. Now, I don't work that much with Chiron because it's not a planet. It's not as important. But that being said, there are some fans of Chiron, so let's do it this time. Let's work with it because the conjunction is very precise. And when aspects are precise, then they're worth working with them more. Okay, so Mars actually, it totally depends this time on Venus, because when there's a conjunction with Chiron, there's some kind of a wound somewhere, And what is the wound of Mars in our humanity right now? It's the pride, and it's a very complex topic. It's the pride of men, but really like manhood, like the pride of not humans, but really men, how they want to conquer. Men, they have this Mars strength in them, even, with hormones, they're very different, men and women, or very, very different. So that tendency, that Martian tendency, let's say, astrologically speaking, that brings men to conquer more, to fight more, to try to be more dominant. That side of things is not in a very good situation right now. Very, very often, and the best way to look at it is if we think about environment and environmental values and issues and all this, we have a tendency to think that this very manly thing of trying to conquer, to exploit Earth, the planet, nature, is very violent. Like really, if we think about environment, have a look what is being said there. We even say, oh, humans are not part of nature. It's it's different somehow, right? People think that when we see humans, we're not in nature, that a city is not nature. There's lots of humans, and if we think that humans are nature, well, we are nature even in cities, right? So there's a problem there, and there's a really big problem in our understanding of what men are. That specific Martian things about men that makes men conquer more, like everything I said, that women usually express less. That being said, of course, there are men that don't express that much and women that do express this trait more. But seriously, like with the hormones and everything, it changes the whole thing. It really does. Testosterone, it changes lots of things in the behavior of men and women. So it's huge, that topic. We have a tendency nowadays to lesser, to don't differentiate men and women so much, but it's huge. Like there's a big difference. So men right now, even if they're not aware of it, because we have that tendency to, lesser, not to underline that difference so much between men and women. Now, there's all those topics out there. So, yeah, since we don't do it anymore, the fact that we see men as being bad for nature, if we look at environmental issues, does affect men's pride. And one could think, oh, it's a good thing because that pride was really bad. I mean, we think we're the only ones intelligent in the whole universe and all this. Okay, I concede that point, you're right. Okay, but that being said, if that energy that want to conquer, that Mars energy is not proud, what will it do? Do you have any idea the consequences of that? It's huge. Because if that energy is not proud, it won't be aiming to do amazing things anymore. So it will just try to survive, look at its own interest, and just, dim down and survive, look at its own interest, and it won't be trying to, realize the kingdom of God on earth, for example. You need to have this Mars energy really strong and proud to think, yes, I'm working for the kingdom of God on earth. And maybe that doesn't tell you anything. Maybe it's not a good way to say it. Let's say if you want to create a paradise on earth, for example, a garden of heaven on earth. If you want to create this, you need that really strong Mars energy, and you need it to be really proud and to think, I'm doing this. And that counts. It changes everything. And have this Mars energy really proud out there. So this is the wound of Mars in that conjunction of Mars and Chiron. See, the wound is there. So if the alchemy with Venus that we talked about just earlier is well done, then Venus will smile towards Mars and Mars will be happy because Mars is ready to give a lot, but it needs to receive. It has to be circulating. Otherwise, Mars is giving, but at some point there's frustration happening and then all sorts of disequilibrium will happen. So it all depends on the work with Venus. How our love is able to incorporate those subtle things we received in, let's say, in the first half of the year, from January to May, let's say. And how do we incorporate those very subtle things we talked about earlier into a more material daily life? And we have to do this ourselves. We're responsible for this ourselves. If we do this well, then we will smile towards our Mars, our will, and that will be happy and proud and will be healing that will from this lack of pride, because we very often identify that Mars energy as something negative, something bad, something harming nature, something ready to kill, to make war, and all this. So you see, it's a whole balance of things. And for the ones that do follow, since that channel is not very old, but in French I do this since a really long time, but at least from the start of that channel, at least the first videos were still in that first half of the year, and you feel the difference. We were in a vibe where we're receiving tons of very subtle things. Now we have to take responsibility on this. We received a lot, but we have to integrate it in our daily life. So hope you get the message, and if you do, please share that video with friends and other people that love astrology, because this channel is very young, very few people know about it. So if you do like it, share with friends, and yeah, I'm sure many people could benefit from it. It's really nice to follow what the sky is showing us with astrology. It's really interesting. Thank you very much for your appreciation, and see you another time for another astrology video.